Welcome back to the channel Coins Buyers everyone, and thank you for tuning in today, because if you love rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories hiding in plain sight, you are absolutely in the right place. And in this video we are diving into one of the most fascinating and talked about coins in American numismatic history, the 1975 Lincoln 1-cent Liberty coin. A penny most people would ignore or spend without a second thought, yet under extraordinary circumstances this humble copper coin has been rumored, discussed, and theorized to carry a potential worth reaching as high as $17 million, a value that seems impossible when compared to its simple face value of 1 cent, and today we are exploring exactly how such a dramatic difference could even exist, what kinds of errors, mistakes, mint mark anomalies, and rare production accidents could transform an everyday 1975 Lincoln penny into one of the most valuable coins ever imagined, and why collectors around the world continue to search through old jars, rolls, and collections hoping to uncover a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The 1975 Lincoln cent belongs to the long-running Lincoln Memorial Penny Series, first introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the classic wheat reverse design, and by 1975 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year to meet circulation demand, striking them primarily in copper alloy composed of approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that already carries intrinsic metal value beyond the 1 cent denomination. Though nowhere near millions of dollars, yet mass production is exactly where the seeds of rarity are planted, because when coins are produced in enormous quantities using high-speed machinery, mistakes are inevitable, and while most errors are minor and common, a very small number can be extreme, dramatic, and historically unique, creating legendary specimens that redefine what a penny can be worth. The 1975 Lincoln cent was struck at multiple mints, primarily Philadelphia and Denver, with San Francisco producing proof coins, and each mint used its own dies, mint marks, and quality control processes, meaning that different types of errors and anomalies could occur at each location, sometimes resulting in coins that should never have existed at all, such as pennies struck on the wrong metal, missing essential design elements, or bearing mint marks that defy official records. And when such anomalies intersect with collector demand, historical curiosity, and perfect preservation, the value can skyrocket to unimaginable levels. One of the most powerful drivers behind the legendary $17 million valuation narrative is the concept of a unique, or nearly unique error, something so rare that only one example is known or believed to exist, because in numismatics, uniqueness is king, and a coin that is one of one immediately transcends traditional price guides and enters the realm of private negotiation, museum interest, and elite collector rivalry, where price becomes a reflection of desire rather than catalog listings. Among the most discussed possibilities is the idea of a 1975 Lincoln cent struck on a wrong planchet, particularly one intended for a higher denomination or even a foreign coin, because the accidental use of an incorrect metal blank can create a coin with the design of a penny but the weight, composition, and physical properties of something entirely different. And history has shown that such errors can command extraordinary prices when authenticated, especially if the wrong planchet is rare, experimental, or associated with restricted testing programs. Another highly valuable scenario involves off-metal strikes using precious metals, such as a penny struck on a silver, gold, or experimental alloy planchet, something that should never leave the mint. And while there is no official record of gold penny planchets for circulation in 1975, the numismatic world is full of surprises, undocumented tests, and human error. And even the possibility of a single specimen slipping through has fueled decades of speculation and searching, because if such a coin were discovered and authenticated, its value would not merely be high, it would be historic. Mint mark errors play an equally critical role in elevating the 1975 Lincoln cent from common to extraordinary, because mint marks serve as identifiers of origin, and any deviation from official mint mark usage immediately raises red flags and collector interest, especially when a mint mark appears where it should not exist, is missing when it should be present, or appears in an incorrect style or location. And in the case of 1975, The Philadelphia Mint officially did not use a mint mark on circulating pennies, so the appearance of a genuine 1975 penny with a clear D or S mint mark from Philadelphia dies would represent a profound anomaly, suggesting either die contamination, die swapping, or unauthorized use of mint mark punches, all of which would be considered catastrophic errors with massive implications. Equally intriguing is the idea of a double die error, where the coin's design appears double due to misalignment during the die creation process. And while many doubled dies exist across different years, only a handful reach legendary status, typically those with bold, dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye on key design elements such as the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust." And if a 1975 Lincoln cent were discovered with extreme, unmistakable doubled die characteristics combined with pristine condition and provenance, it could rank among the most valuable doubled die pennies ever known. Die cap errors, where a coin becomes stuck to a die and continues to strike subsequent blanks, gradually forming a cap-like shape, are another category of dramatic mistakes that captivate collectors. And while most die caps are visually distorted and not traditionally valued in the millions, an early-stage die cap from 1975 with a full design, unusual metal composition, and documented mint escape could achieve extraordinary status, especially if it represents a one-of-a-kind production. Accident. Broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar causing it to spread wider than normal, also add to the catalog of possibilities, particularly if combined with other anomalies such as off-center strikes or partial brockages. And the more complex and layered the errors are, the more compelling the story becomes, because collectors are not only buying a coin, they are buying a moment frozen in time when the minting process went spectacularly wrong. Another angle fueling the $17 million valuation discussion is the theoretical existence of a transitional error, where a coin is struck using materials intended for a different year or composition change, and although the major composition change from copper to zinc-coated steel did not officially occur until the early 1980s, the Mint is known to have conducted testing and experimentation well before public implementation, and if a 1975 penny were struck on an experimental or transitional planchet never meant for circulation, it would represent a missing link in mint history, instantly elevating its importance beyond ordinary collecting. Condition plays a crucial role in amplifying value, because even the rarest error can lose much of its potential if it is heavily worn or damaged, whereas a flawless, uncirculated example with full mint luster, sharp strike, and minimal handling marks can command exponentially higher prices. And when rarity and condition align perfectly, the result can be a coin that transcends traditional valuation logic. Provenance is another essential factor, as a coin with a documented history, such as discovery from a sealed mint bag, long-term storage in a collection, or association with a known numismatist, carries greater credibility and appeal, reducing doubts about authenticity and increasing buyer confidence, which is critical when values reach into the millions. The idea of a $17 million penny also reflects the psychology of elite collecting, where ultra-wealthy individuals compete for the rarest objects not only as investments but as symbols of status, historical stewardship, and personal legacy. And in such a market, a truly unique 1975 Lincoln cent error could become the centerpiece of a world-class collection, displayed in museums or private vaults, and discussed for generations. It is important to understand that values at this level are not fixed prices but potential outcomes driven by auction dynamics, private sales, and the emotional intensity of bidders, and history has repeatedly shown that when two or more determined collectors want the same singular object, price ceilings can shatter dramatically. The enduring fascination with the 1975 Lincoln cent also stems from its accessibility, because unlike ancient coins or limited commemoratives, pennies are everywhere. And the idea that life-changing value could be hiding in loose change creates a sense of hope and excitement that fuels constant searching, roll hunting, and online discussions, keeping the legend alive year after year. Every scratch, every anomaly, every unusual weight or color becomes a clue in a massive treasure hunt, and while most 1975 pennies are worth only their face value or modest premiums, the possibility, however remote, of discovering an extraordinary error is enough to keep collectors looking. And unbelievable stories that can literally change lives, Today we're diving deep into one of the most talked about and mysterious modern coins in American numismatics, the 1983 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny, a simple copper-colored coin most people overlook, toss into jars, or spend without a second thought. Yet certain rare versions of this exact penny are believed by collectors and experts to be worth up to $15 million, making it one of the most valuable 1-cent coins ever discussed. And in this video we'll explore how a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could become so incredibly valuable, what makes the 1983 D. Lincoln penny different from ordinary pennies, and how specific errors, mint mistakes, metal composition anomalies, and mint mark irregularities created the perfect storm that turned a common circulation coin into a legendary rarity. So let's begin by understanding the historical background of the 1983 Lincoln penny, and why this year is so important. In 1983, the United States Mint was still adjusting to a major change that had taken place just 1 year earlier. In 1982, the U.S. Mint officially transitioned Lincoln cents from the traditional 95% copper composition to a new copper-plated zinc composition, a decision driven by rising copper prices, meaning pennies minted before and during this transition period could exist in both metal types. And this transition created confusion, experimentation, and room for human and mechanical error at the minting facilities, including the Denver Mint where the 1983 D pennies were produced. Normally all 1983 pennies should be copper-plated zinc and weigh approximately 2.5 grams, while older copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams. However, the biggest mystery and the foundation of the $15 million valuation revolves around the possibility that a very small number of 1983 D. Lincoln pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover copper planchets from earlier years, which theoretically should not exist. Yet history has shown that the U.S. Mint has made similar mistakes before, such as the famous 1943 copper penny and the 1944 steel penny, both of which were struck on the wrong metal planchets, and today are worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And this precedent alone gives credibility to the idea that a 1983 D copper penny error could exist and command astronomical value if authenticated. The value skyrockets because such a coin would be a transitional error of extreme rarity, potentially one of a kind, and collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for coins that represent impossible minting scenarios. Now beyond the metal composition error, the 1983 D. Lincoln penny is also famous for other dramatic errors that add to its desirability, including double die obverse errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, and dramatic die clashes. But the most famous error associated with this year is the 1983 double die reverse, where the words 1 cent and e pluribus unum appear visibly doubled. This error alone can push values into the thousands or even tens of thousands depending on condition, but when combined with a Denver Mint mark and potential copper composition, the value enters a completely different universe. Collectors and grading services look closely at the mint mark itself on these coins because mint mark errors can significantly increase value, including tilted D mint marks, filled mint marks, weak mint marks, or even mint marks struck over foreign debris. Each of these variations tells a story of chaos at the minting press where dies, punches, and planchets collided under immense pressure, and in rare cases, the mint mark can appear doubled or misplaced, further increasing the coin's appeal. Another critical factor that separates an ordinary 1983 D penny from a multi-million-dollar specimen is condition. A coin with sharp details, original luster, no post-mint damage, and strong strike can exponentially increase in value, especially when paired with a major error. And when experts talk about the $15 million valuation, they are usually referring to a hypothetical perfect storm coin, one that is struck on a solid copper planchet, bears a Denver Mint mark, exhibits a dramatic and verifiable mint error such as a doubled die or wrong planchet, and survives in near mint state condition. Such a coin would not only be rare, it would rewrite modern U.S. coin history, attracting museums, elite collectors, and investors from around the world. Another fascinating aspect is that many people unknowingly possess 1983 D pennies in jars, drawers, piggy banks, and inherited collections, because over 6 billion Lincoln cents were minted in 1983 across all mints. making the year seem common on the surface. But rarity in numismatics is not about mintage numbers alone, it's about surviving anomalies, errors, and mistakes that escaped quality control, and that's why experts always encourage people to weigh their 1983 pennies using a precise digital scale, because weight is the first clue. A genuine copper error would weigh approximately 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, and even a slight deviation could indicate a wrong planchet strike. Magnet tests, visual inspection, and professional grading are all crucial steps in determining authenticity. Because the market is flooded with altered coins, copper-plated zinc pennies that have been modified, or fraudulent claims, which is why certified examples from reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC are essential for achieving top dollar. Another reason the 1983 D Lincoln penny holds such fascination is psychological. The idea that a modern pocket change coin could be worth millions captivates both seasoned collectors and everyday people, fueling treasure hunts and renewed interest in coin rolls searching. And this excitement is not unfounded, because genuine era coins have been discovered decades after minting, sometimes in circulation, sometimes in old collections, proving that time does not eliminate possibility, it only hides it. And as values continue to rise in the collectibles market, especially for unique and headline-grabbing items, a verified 1983 D copper-era penny would instantly become one of the most valuable coins on Earth, rivaling legendary rarities like the 1804 silver dollar or the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle. The Lincoln design itself adds emotional and historical weight, featuring Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most revered presidents, and a design that has been in continuous use since 1909, making any major anomaly within this series especially important. And the Denver Mint's role adds another layer, because Denver is known for producing high-quality strikes, so any dramatic error from this facility becomes even more noteworthy. Collectors also analyze die states, die deterioration, and strike pressure, because extreme pressure can exaggerate doubling, create ghost images, or cause metal flow lines that indicate mint origin errors rather than post-mint damage. And when experts examine high-value candidates, they use microscopes, metallurgical testing, and historical mint records to rule out forgery, which again emphasizes why only a tiny fraction of claimed coins ever reach elite status, yet the dream remains alive. Because history has proven again and again that the impossible sometimes exists in numismatics, and this is why the 1983 D Lincoln penny continues to dominate conversations, auctions, and online searches, with people hoping they might be holding a fortune disguised as spare change. The potential $15 million value represents not just metal and the stakes, but rarity, story, historical context, collector demand, and the sheer thrill of discovery. And even if only one such coin exists, its impact on the hobby is enormous, inspiring new generations of collectors to look closer, learn more, and appreciate the tiny details that can turn ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. So the next time you see a 1983 D Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it as just another cent, because within that small coin could lie a mystery, a mistake, and a possibility that challenges everything we think we know about money, value, and history. And that is what makes the 1983 D Lincoln penny one of the most fascinating and potentially valuable 1-cent coins ever imagined. The fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, because in this video we are diving deep into a humble coin that most people have spent without a second thought yet has sparked wild stories, intense collector interest, and jaw-dropping valuations. Today's focus is on the 2012 1-cent Lincoln penny, a modern coin that on the surface looks completely ordinary, worth just 1 cent. Yet under specific circumstances, errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies, it has been rumored, speculated, and in some extreme collector narratives even claimed to reach astonishing values approaching $19 million. So stay with me from beginning to end, because what you are about to hear may completely change the way you look at the pennies in your pocket, jar, or drawer. The 2012 Lincoln penny was struck during a period when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins every year. And because of this massive output, even tiny mistakes could slip through unnoticed. The Lincoln cent design itself carries immense historical weight, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person, and by 2012 the design had already evolved through multiple reverse styles, including the Lincoln Memorial and the later Shield reverse, which symbolizes Lincoln's role in preserving the Union. The 2012 penny features Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, and it was minted primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with no mint mark for Philadelphia and a D mint mark for Denver, while proof versions were struck in San Francisco, now on paper and in standard references. A normal 2012 penny in circulated condition is worth exactly 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents in uncirculated rolls. But the story changes dramatically when we enter the world of mint errors, die varieties, transitional mistakes, and rare anomalies that collectors obsess over. Because in numismatics, rarity is not always about age, it is about uniqueness, survival, and demand. One of the most talked about possibilities surrounding the 2012 Lincoln penny is the concept of wrong planchet errors, meaning the coin was struck on a metal blank intended for a different denomination or composition. In 2012, the standard Lincoln cent composition was zinc with a thin copper plating, but if a penny were accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, a foreign coin, or an experimental alloy, it would immediately stand out due to its weight, color, and sound. Such errors are extremely rare and highly sought after, and when authenticated, they can command enormous prices, sometimes tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in extreme hypothetical cases involving unique experimental metals or one-of-a-kind transitional blanks, collectors and investors have speculated values that stretch into the millions. Another area that fuels the $19 million narrative is the idea of mule errors, which occur when mismatched dies are paired together, such as a Lincoln cent obverse combined with a reverse intended for a completely different coin or design. Mule errors are among the rarest and most famous mistakes in U.S. coinage history, and when a mule is confirmed from a modern year like 2012, especially if it is the only known example, its value becomes almost impossible to define, because it enters the realm of private treaty sales, elite collectors, and museums, where price is driven not by price guides but by prestige and competition. Adding to this is the possibility of double denomination errors, where a coin is struck as a penny and then struck again by dies of another denomination, creating overlapping designs, dates, and inscriptions that defy logic and capture attention. Then there are dramatic striking errors such as multiple strikes, off-metal strikes, broad strikes, and cap die errors, where the coin may be struck several times, sometimes with rotation, leaving ghost-like images of Lincoln's face or the shield reverse layered on top of each other. And while many of these errors are minor and sell for modest sums, the most extreme examples, especially those that are visually spectacular and one of a kind, can reach extraordinary values. Mint mark errors are another critical component of this story. Because while the 2012 penny was produced in huge quantities, the placement and integrity of the mint mark on Denver issues can reveal rare varieties, such as repunched mint marks, filled mint marks, tilted mint marks, or even missing mint marks where one should exist, and conversely, mint marks appearing where they should not. Imagine a 2012 penny bearing a mint mark that does not align with known mint practices, or a doubled or triple punch D that is bold and clear under magnification. Such anomalies can transform an everyday cent into a prized collectible. Die errors also play a massive role, including doubled dies where parts of the design appear doubled due to misalignment during the hubbing process. A strong doubled die obverse on a 2012 penny could show doubling in Lincoln's eye, year, date, or the word liberty, while a doubled die reverse could display dramatic separation lines on the shield, the motto E pluribus unum, or the vertical stripes of the shield itself. True doubled dies are different from machine doubling, and when confirmed, they can be worth hundreds, thousands, or more depending on strength and rarity. The idea of a $19 million penny often comes from combining multiple rare attributes into a single coin, for example a unique double die mule struck on the wrong planchet with an anomalous mint mark, authenticated as the only known example in existence. Such a coin would not just be a collectible, it would be a numismatic legend. The 2012 penny also exists in proof form, and proof errors are even rarer than circulation errors, because proof coins are struck with specially prepared dies and planchets under controlled conditions, meaning mistakes are far less common. A proof 2012 penny with a major error such as a missing copper plating, extreme doubling, or wrong metal strike would instantly become a centerpiece of any advanced collection. Another angle often discussed is transitional errors, which occur when old dies, old planchets, or experimental materials are accidentally used after a transition to a new design or composition. While the Lincoln cent composition had stabilized by 2012, the U.S. Mint has a long history of experimenting with alternative metals due to rising copper and zinc costs, and if a 2012 penny were proven to be struck on an experimental alloy not intended for release, its historical significance alone could justify an astronomical valuation. Collectors also look closely at striking anomalies like die cracks, die breaks, retained cut errors, and full cuts, where pieces of the die break away leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin. Small cracks are common and inexpensive, but massive retained cuts that dramatically alter the design can be extremely valuable, especially when they occur late in a die's life and create a distinctive appearance that can be matched across only a handful of known coins. Another factor driving extreme value speculation is provenance, meaning the documented history of the coin. If a rare 2012 penny were discovered in a sealed mint bag, an official mint set, or directly traced to a mint employee or experimental batch, its story would add layers of desirability and legitimacy. Coins are not just metal, they are stories frozen in time, and the more compelling and mysterious the story, the more collectors are willing to pay. Condition is also critical, because a spectacular error preserved in pristine, uncirculated, or proof condition is exponentially more valuable than the same error heavily worn. The idea that a single penny could be worth $19 million may sound unbelievable, but history shows us that unique coins can achieve staggering prices. Consider famous examples like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die cent, or the 1974 aluminum cent, which is essentially priceless due to its rarity and legal status. These coins began as mistakes or experiments and evolved into legends. The 2012 Lincoln penny occupies a similar narrative space in the imagination of collectors, representing the possibility that, even in the modern era of advanced technology and quality control, extraordinary errors can still happen, and somewhere out there, perhaps in circulation, a roll, or a forgotten collection, there could exist a penny that defies all expectations. For everyday people, this story is also empowering, because it means anyone can participate. You do not need to be wealthy to search your change, you just need curiosity, patience, and knowledge, weighing your pennies, examining them under magnification, comparing them to known references, and staying informed about new discoveries can turn a casual hobby into a life-changing moment. And even if you never find a $19 million penny, the thrill of the hunt, the connection to history, and the possibility of discovery make coin collecting endlessly fascinating. The 2012 Lincoln penny reminds us that value is not always obvious, that mistakes can become treasures, and that the smallest objects can carry the biggest stories. The mysterious and exciting world of the 2015 Lincoln 1-cent Liberty coin, a modern penny that most people overlook every day, yet under rare circumstances has been rumored, speculated, discussed, and passionately debated among collectors as having the potential to reach values talked about in the millions of dollars, even as high as $18 million. Not because of its face value of 1 cent, but because of extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, mint mark anomalies, metal composition irregularities, and the powerful psychology of rarity and demand that drives the numismatic market. So let us take a journey together into how an ordinary 2015 Lincoln penny could become one of the most talked about modern coins in existence. The Lincoln cent has a long and iconic history in the United States, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and over the decades it has undergone many changes in composition, design, and minting technology. But by 2015 the penny was considered one of the most common and least valued coins in circulation, often ignored, tossed into jars, or left behind in take-a-penny trays. Yet this very expectation of worthlessness is what makes rare errors so powerful, because when something assumed to be mundane suddenly turns out to be extraordinary, it captures attention. And the 2015 Lincoln Cent exists in a time when minting processes are highly automated and quality control is extremely advanced, which means any significant error that escapes detection becomes exponentially rarer and more intriguing to collectors. In 2015, Lincoln Cents were produced primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with no mint mark indicating Philadelphia and a small d mint mark indicating Denver, and the standard composition for that year was 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, a formula used since 1982. Yet one of the most valuable possibilities begins with the idea of a wrong planchet error, where a coin is struck on a metal disc intended for a completely different denomination, or even a foreign coin, and if a 2015 Lincoln Cent were struck on a bronze planchet left over from pre-1982 production, or on a planchet intended for a dime, quarter, or even a foreign alloy, the weight, sound, color, and magnetic properties would immediately set it apart, and such errors have historically sold for staggering sums, especially when authenticated and preserved in high condition. Another possibility that fuels the legend of the multimillion-dollar 2015 penny is the concept of transitional errors, where a coin is struck during a changeover period in materials or design. And while 2015 was not officially a transitional year, the existence of experimental planchets, test metals, or internal mint trials cannot be entirely ruled out. Because mints often test new alloys for cost-saving purposes, and if even a single test planchet accidentally entered circulation and was struck with regular dies, it would create a unique specimen with no official documentation, making it priceless in the eyes of collectors who thrive on mystery and uniqueness. Mint mark errors are another major contributor to extreme valuations, especially when they involve missing, doubled, misplaced, or overpunched mint marks. And although modern minting practices generally integrate mint marks into the die rather than punching them by hand, errors still occur, such as a 2015 D cent with a dramatically doubled mint mark visible to the naked eye, or a mint mark placed far from its intended location, or even a phantom mint mark appearing where none should exist. And while a simple missing mint mark on a Philadelphia coin is normal, a missing D on a coin clearly struck with Denver die characteristics could suggest a filled or polished mint mark error, which becomes far more interesting when combined with other anomalies. Die errors play a massive role in pushing values upward, especially dramatic double die obverse or reverse errors, where the design elements such as Lincoln's profile, the word Liberty, the date 2015, or the motto "In God We Trust" appear doubled or even tripled due to misalignment during the die creation process. And while minor doubling is common and often dismissed as machine doubling, true doubled dies are highly sought after, and a strong doubled die on a modern coin can command 5 or 6 figures on its own, but when combined with additional errors, the value can escalate rapidly into uncharted territory. Another breathtaking category is off-metal strikes combined with off-center strikes, where the coin is not only made of the wrong metal but also struck partially outside the collar, resulting in a crescent-shaped or elliptical coin with missing design elements. And if such a coin also retains a clear date and mint mark, collectors consider it the perfect storm of errors, and the more visually dramatic the mistake, the more intense the bidding wars become. The rumored $18 million valuation often comes from hypothetical scenarios discussed among elite collectors and auction houses, where a coin possesses multiple major errors simultaneously, such as being struck on a rare experimental alloy, showing a bold double die obverse, having a dramatic off-center strike, and featuring a unique mint mark anomaly never before recorded. All while being preserved in near-perfect condition, because condition is the final multiplier that can transform a rare coin into a legendary one, and a mint state or proof-like error coin from circulation is almost unheard of, which is why the idea of a pristine 2015 error cent excites so much speculation. Another intriguing factor is the possibility of a mule error, where the obverse and reverse dies are mismatched, such as a Lincoln cent obverse paired with a reverse intended for a different denomination or even a different country. And while mule errors are extremely rare, they have occurred in modern times, and when they do, they become instant icons in numismatics, often selling for millions because they represent a breakdown in multiple layers of mint quality control. The psychology of value cannot be ignored either, because coins do not become worth millions solely due to metal or mistakes, but because collectors collectively agree that something is special, and when a coin captures media attention, sparks online discussion, and becomes the subject of mystery and debate, its perceived value grows, and the 2015 Lincoln cent exists in the age of social media, where a single viral discovery can turn an obscure error into a global phenomenon overnight, attracting investors, collectors, and speculators from around the world. Historical precedent supports these possibilities, as coins like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double-die cent, and the 1974 aluminum cent have achieved legendary status and massive valuations due to their rarity, backstory, and the intrigue surrounding how they came to exist. And while those coins are older, the principles that made them valuable still apply today. Perhaps even more so because modern documentation makes unexplainable errors even more tantalizing. The idea of an $18 million 2015 penny also ties into the concept of uniqueness, because if only one example exists, or if only a handful are known, collectors with vast resources may be willing to pay extraordinary sums simply to own the sole specimen, especially when it represents a once-in-a-generation minting anomaly, and in the world of high-end numismatics, uniqueness often outweighs age. Another layer of value comes from authentication and grading, because once a coin is certified by a major grading service and recognized as a genuine mint error, it gains legitimacy, and if that certification includes detailed notes about unprecedented characteristics, it becomes a documented piece of history, and documentation is what transforms speculation into investment. There is also the possibility of die cap errors, where a coin becomes stuck to a die and continues to strike other planchets, forming a bottle cap-like shape, and while these errors are usually associated with older coins, modern examples are extraordinarily rare and visually striking, and if a 2015 Lincoln cent die cap were discovered, especially one that progressed through multiple stages, it would be a museum-worthy piece. Broad strike errors, where the collar fails and the coin expands outward, can also contribute to high value when combined with other errors, especially if the coin shows sharp details despite its distorted shape, because sharpness indicates a strong strike, and strong strikes on error coins are highly prized. Even subtle errors such as doubled lettering combined with unusual texture, improper annealing that creates unique surface patterns, or plating errors where the copper layer peels, bubbles, or is entirely missing can elevate a coin's desirability, and while individually these might be worth hundreds or thousands, in combination they can push values into 6 or 7 figures, particularly if the coin becomes a reference piece cited in books and research papers. The minting process itself offers insight into how such errors can occur, because blanks are punched, annealed, washed, dried, upset, and then struck at high speeds, and at any stage, a malfunction, contamination, or human oversight can introduce an anomaly, and although quality control removes most errors, perfection is impossible at industrial scale, which means rare survivors will always exist.